helpful for a lot of other sustainable business owners and startups to kind of get a bit of an insight into how you guys have grown and what challenges you faced. And I'm sure a lot of them will be common challenges across different sectors for people in sustainability and people that have started up in general. So I just wondered if we could start off by you telling us a little bit about you and your brand, and a bit of the story behind it, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so One Planet Pizza was the UK's first frozen vegan pizza company, and myself and my son Joe came up with the idea about 4.5 years ago originally. And I guess it came about because I was involved in several businesses, but none of them were plant-based businesses. And I had a part share in a vegetarian restaurant, but I really wanted to do a 100% vegan plant-based type business. And my son Joe had recently turned vegan, so he was quite keen to get involved in that side of things. And we always used to, Saturday night when my kids were growing up was always pizza night. And we always used to cook our own pizzas. So pizzas have always been, we used to do them from scratch as well. So it was always part of the family thing growing up. And then since I've been vegan and my other children turned vegan, they were having pizzas without cheese mainly because the cheese was so rubbish. But recently the vegan cheese has started getting a lot better. So we started experimenting with the cheese on the pizzas. And initially we did a big, some tasting sessions with the restaurant customers, and they seemed to be going down quite well. So then we started producing them in the restaurant that I own and just freezing them and sending them out to local shops around Norwich. And we're lucky that Norwich is a bit of a vegan centre. It's quite a strong, it's up there with Bristol, Brighton, London, these sorts of places. So fairly quickly we had 6 shops which were taking these pizzas. And I guess the idea behind it was really to make it really easy for people that want to cut down on their cheese and their dairy intake, but didn't want to stop having one of the world's favourite fast foods, to have an easy swap in. So the first 4 flavours, and they're still our classic range, are 3 cheese margarita, the funky feast, the Hawaiian, and the med veg. So they're just classic pizzas which people can swap out the meat and dairy, and we were trying to make them just as healthy as possible as well. So when we came up with the recipes, we were using less salt, no sugar. We put in flax seeds in the base, chia seeds in the sauce to try and get the omega-3 levels up. And I guess that's how it sort of started, really.
Nice. You're making me hungry. It's only 3 o'clock. So the next question I've got for you is a bit of an off-the-topic piece, but what do you think when you hear the word sustainable? There's so many different connotations, and everyone obviously has a different idea. What does sustainable mean to you?
I guess there's the sort of the micro and the macro, isn't it? From a small point of view, it's about making the business sustainable and making sure that the business can continue to exist, and uses internally its systems, its processes, the way the ingredients it uses, the suppliers, etc. All of those, you're just trying to, as much as possible, to minimize your waste and to maximize your ability to use recyclable goods, and to make whatever you produce recyclable or compostable. But I guess in the wider sense, in the macro sense, from a vegan plant-based perspective, I would say that we know, for example, our pizzas are about 20 to 40% less carbon footprint than a typical meat or dairy pizza. So every time someone eats one of our pizzas instead of a meat or dairy one, we've used this nice little phrase for saying, well, this pizza might not save the world, but it's a start, because it's all the pizza business, frozen pizza businesses market is worth 480 million in the UK alone per annum. So if we could get 1% of that, 4.8 million, that's an awful lot of pizzas. It's about 200,000 pizzas that are being eaten that are significantly less of a carbon footprint. And I suppose, and that's before you then start looking at, we think we're the first zero to landfill pizza in the world, because our boxes are all compostable, recyclable, carbon neutral, and even our cling film is is recyclable as well now. So it's zero plastic, zero to landfill.
I was just going to touch on that actually. You mentioned obviously the size of the market, but I would imagine that the packaging supply chain that goes into that market is quite large as well. I know that I've had pizzas in the past that are wrapped in all sorts of things that definitely don't need to be wrapped in. And then obviously the packaging that they merchandise in the supermarkets as well. So it sounds like you're making good moves in that as well.
Yeah, I think it's taken us some time, to work out what's the optimum, or most efficient, most carbon neutral, environmentally friendly way of doing it. And we're still, making improvements. We'd love to get a cling film that's compostable as opposed to recyclable. And technology is improving all the time. It really is. And in our new direct service, our D2C, direct to consumer offering, we've reduced the packaging down on that significantly as well.
Brilliant. So next question, can you tell us about the early days? So what was it like starting the UK's first frozen vegan pizza company? And what sort of challenges did you face, if any?
Yeah, no, well, I mean, loads of challenges. There's always lots of challenges to starting new businesses, and they never hardly ever go how you think they're going to go. I mean, while it was very small and local, it was all very manageable. But I guess we then started expanding out, and we're still delivering direct to up to about 50 shops, I think, across a lot of the southeast. And Joe, my son and business partner, was pretty much doing all of these deliveries himself. And that was one of those crucial points in the business where you've just got to change, your systems and change the way you do things, because it had reached at that second phase of growth. We just couldn't do it. It wasn't sustainable to keep doing it like that. So then we then had to really change the model and say, okay, we're not going to go direct to shops. We're now going to go through wholesalers and retailers. And that was a real change, because at that stage we were delivering perhaps 10 boxes at the most to a shop, and then you go to delivering 100 boxes on 2 pallets to one place, and then they're doing the distribution for you. So the amount of customers that we had actually went down significantly. We're only delivering now to 10 or 12 different places, whereas one stage we were delivering to 50 different places. But obviously we're delivering in a lot more volume. And I suppose one of the biggest challenges as production increased was because our background isn't from commercial food production. There's a real sharp learning curve about what you do yourself and what you outsource, what you buy in. And I think getting that, you can't buy everything in, you can't outsource everything at the start, but it's definitely important to be aware of when it reaches those points in different parts of the business where you think, well, we can't do this ourselves now. It's more efficient to pay for the outsourcing of this, or a consultant or a specialist to do a day a week or on this, rather than just trying to do it all yourself. And I think the only other thing I'd say, I mean, the marketing of One Planet Pizza has been really interesting. Right from the start, we wanted it to be a really organic network, affinity type marketing. So we've hardly spent any money on traditional forms of marketing, all paid for social ads yet. It's all really been through working with influencers and bloggers, sending them out free pizzas, going along to events where we can cater, and we sell hot pizzas, but we're also talking about the frozen pizzas that people can get at shops, and also working with industry organisations. So whatever sector you're in, if you can find out who are the gatekeepers, who are the influencers, the organisations, the professional bodies. So in the plant-based sector, you've got people like Evolution who run events, VegFest, and various other big events like Vegan Life. And so if you can work with these organisations, charities in our sector like Viva and the Vegan Society, then they're always looking for partners and always looking for content. We spend a lot of time and effort on that collaborations, partnership side of things, and spend hardly any money on paid for advertising.
It's probably it sounds like a different approach to a lot of startups, especially in I know brands like Mindful Chef at the moment are pushing massively into their TV advertising budget, and it seems that you've gone the other way. So that's pretty refreshing, actually. And all the influencers, I'm sure they love receiving free pizza. So it's an easy.
Yeah, exactly. It does help to have pizza as a product, because it opens doors. You can imagine if you're selling nuts or bolts or screws or something that's less exciting. It doesn't open the same sort of doors, does it? Where it's very easy for us to get involved in events, to do things for people, to do interesting stories and content, and to do collaborations and partnerships, because pizza just lends itself to that, I guess.
Yeah. My next question was actually, what tips have you got for anyone thinking about launching a brand with a sustainability focus? You've obviously given us a lot of tips there on marketing. Are there any specifics around sustainability communications, or just specifically starting a sustainable brand that you could perhaps give to everyone?
I guess, probably the most important thing is to accept you're not going to get it all right straight away. There's definitely this process of iteration and learning. And you've also got to accept that you're going to get criticised. You're not going to keep everyone happy all the time. So, early on, we had a real issue around palm oil, for example. So we had a small amount of palm oil in one of the products that was on one of the pizzas, but there was a small vocal minority that wouldn't let it go, and it's from sustainable sources and all this sort of stuff. But it's incredible how some people will focus on one small part of the overall picture. And now we do actually, we are palm oil free across the whole range, and we got there as soon as we could. But it can get a bit disheartening if you think, my God, we're doing all this really good stuff, and then someone comes along and just beats you over the head because you've got palm oil in, or if your products aren't 100% GM, or if we haven't really gone down the organic route at all. Some people will criticize you because you're not going organic. So I think you've got to just have a real belief that what you're doing, ultimately your heart's in the right place and you are trying to get there, but you're not going to be perfect on all counts at the same time.
I think people are, as long as you're transparent about these things and you say that you're transparent about the fact that those aren't quite where you'd like them to be. I think people are a bit more open to that. I don't know if that's something that you've seen in your business, but brands that we work with are definitely, as long as you're open and transparent about it. And I think people almost like to be on that journey as well, to be a part of it. The fact that they've helped change the way that the company behaves, or some of the supply chain behaves, I think that's something that perhaps they like as well.
Yeah. No, so we engage with because we've got quite a large social media following, and they are very engaged and loyal. So whenever we can, we try and engage with them and involve them in company decisions, around packaging or around pizza flavors and the like. And I think you're right. I think these days, for a brand like us, your fans, your followers really appreciate that sort of approach.
Yeah, brilliant. It's good to hear that you're doing it already. And move away from sustainability, just onto COVID. We can't ignore it with everything that's going on. Have you been impacted by it at all? And do you think people are still interested in the sustainability aspect of the business as well?
Yeah, I think so, definitely. We've actually been impacted very positively on it, which sounds very strange, but back in January, we launched our initial direct-to-consumer offering on a new website and did a very soft launch. Got some good response, but we really didn't put time and effort behind it. And then when this all started hitting the fans, we noticed that the orders was picking up. And so we thought we better switch some of our attention and focus to really doing a big official launch of that direct-to-consumer offering. The retail side has increased as well. That's because I think Ocado are a fairly big customer for us, and obviously they've been doing very well. But also, our solid base is our independent health stores. We've got about 450 of them, and And most of them have stayed open because they're classified as food shops. And a lot of them have started doing deliveries and pickups and stuff like this. So I think they've been busier than normal. So the original retail part of the business has picked up by 10–20%. But the direct-to-consumer, online offering where people can go online and personalize their pizza, create a 4-pack or a 5-pack and get it sent out to them, that's increased by probably 150% over the last 4 to 6 weeks. Yeah, and I think, I mean, partly it's around the whole online, ordering and not being able to do this stuff at home. But also, I think there is definitely some people are taking the opportunity to try different things. They're also, I think, and I don't think this applies to the whole of the population, but there's a pretty decent minority of the population that are thinking a little bit more about sustainability and about the environmental impacts of what they eat. So overall, and obviously it's not a good thing has happened, but for our business, it's certainly been very positive. And I think in the long term, I think some people's habits will have been changed permanently. Definitely in terms of being open to online shopping a little bit more. But also I think it can't have done the whole plant-based eating phenomena. I don't think it's done it any harm at all. I really don't. I think the only risk is really that whole economic reading something in the radio or listening to something on the radio about the country going into recession. So I think the only risk is that whole macroeconomic, the whole country and the whole world potentially is going to be have financial problems. But I think so some people may not be able to afford to pay the extra money to buy decent food. That's probably the one big problem.
Bit of a worry. Yeah, I think it's the concern for a lot of businesses at the moment, what's going to happen afterwards. And I guess we don't know at the moment. So we kind of just have to do what we're doing and play that by ear, I guess. You mentioned there about the personalization. Is that something that you think has been key to the success of the direct to consumer?
Yeah, I think there's been numerous examples of companies like Nike who have started to get into personalization. For example, they offer a shoe service, where you can get your particular shoe and get your initials put on it and stuff like this. So I think that's something which people are going to be after increasingly and happy to pay a premium for. At the moment on our site, you choose your different base and your topping. But we're going to increase that. The next stage will be to choose your cheese. So you can choose your base, your topping and cheese, and then maybe 4 different pizzas. So it means you've got 12 or 16 permutations. And I just think it allows people it makes it a little bit more fun. And it means that if we want people to come back every month and buy a 4 or 5-pack, it allows them to not get bored, to have a real choice. The other thing around that personalization is that we also have got this concept of moving towards creating pizza experiences, so that not only can you choose your pizza, but if you've got a particular experience, so for example a children's birthday party or a night in by myself with watching Netflix and a few beers, or an office party to introduce people to vegan pizzas, then what we're going to start doing is creating those packages, those experiences. So we suggest these pizzas, and here's some birthday party packs, and here's a hashtag. Whenever you do your Instagram films and stuff like that, and stories, then use this hashtag. So we're almost creating little communities around those experiences of children's birthday parties that are vegan and environmentally friendly and plastic free. Or as I say, this Friday night, we may have 100 people around the country who are all enjoying our pizza, sitting at home watching Netflix by themselves with a vegan beer.
That's cool.
Yeah. So it's about creating that personalization in the product, but also trying to create experiences or communities, tribes, whatever you want to call them, of people that are eating the pizzas in different ways in different environments.
It's a really good idea, and it's definitely something that I think a lot of people will look at after COVID as well, is bringing people together that aren't necessarily in the same friendship groups or in the same networks. I think that's a very good idea of bringing people who have shared interests together. Brilliant.
Yeah, yeah. I think the other thing we've noticed that's interesting is this concept of gifting, of buying something for someone else.
Yeah.
So we're starting to pick on that big time, and in fact, on Friday we're putting a promo out, especially to people that have bought in the last few weeks, saying you may not have eaten all the pizzas yet, but do you want to send a 4-pack to a friend or someone you love or a colleague or whatever? And here's a promo code to do that, and we'll put a handwritten message in the pizza box from you. So cool. I think that's interesting as well, especially at the moment when people can't see everyone they want to see. There's quite a lot of this, online gifting taking.
That's tough. If anyone wants to send me some free pizzas, feel free to do so. Brilliant. So the last question, or two, if you don't mind, are the who or what inspires you, and have you got any book recommendations for people on the call?
Yeah, sure. It's interesting. Actually, the person I'm inspired with most at the moment is actually a medical doctor, and the work that he does around promoting a plant-based diet. He's called Dr. Greger, American doctor, and he's written 2 very famous books. One's been around for a long time, How Not to Die, and it's just an incredibly evidence-based, almost a direct encyclopedia about the benefits of promoting a plant-based diet on an individual basis, but also on a society type basis. And his new book, which came out a few months ago, is How Not to Diet. And he runs a charity called nutritionfacts.org. And the work that they do is amazing. And that's one of the key drivers for me, is that I honestly believe that a plant-based diet is better for your individual health, but it's also better for the planet, and as well as obviously the animals we share the planets with. So I think one of the big barriers has been that old school, more traditional nutrition and doctors have just not really kept up with the latest research around how plant-based diet can impact on the top 10 pillars in Western society. So I listen to his podcast on a regular basis, and we've got one of our slogans in One Pack Pizza is pizza with purpose. And ultimately, we're not just about, we're not a frozen vegan pizza business. We're using pizza as an agent of change. What's the change we're trying to do? We're just trying to get people to change the way they think about what they eat, I guess. So, I'd recommend him. Anyone's interested in that, in our sector, I definitely recommend, looking at some of his podcasts and reading one of his books.
Brilliant. Thanks. That's really helpful. Thanks very much. And you've obviously recommended that, but where can we find you and your brand? Where do you what social channels have you got? What's the website?
Sure. I mean, it's really easy to, One Planet. Yeah, that's okay. So easy to remember. Just go to the website, oneplanetpizza.com, and you'll find everything about the company there. You'll find out every shop. We've got a pizza finder where you can look at a map of the world and pretty much see wherever you can pick up pizzas, because we've got shops as far as the Middle East and down into Cyprus and places like that. So a lot of, and then obviously you can buy on the same website. We've got the shop, OPP Direct, where you can order your 4-packs and your 5-packs and personalize your pizzas. And we also, at the moment, we're doing a lot of collaborations, partnerships with other brands. So pretty much every week we're putting in a free burger, a pack, a free sausage pack, a free drink, just as a little treat for everyone who orders one of our pizza boxes.
Amazing. I think I know what I'm going to have for tea. You've made me very hungry, and it's not even 4 o'clock yet. So well done for that. Right. Brilliant. So that's really helpful, and I'm sure a lot of people will get a lot of value from things that you've shared. So thank you.